The Honorable Dato Hajah Shukri, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia, Tan Sri Michael Yeo, President KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific, Excellencies, honored speakers and moderators, distinguished delegates and guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you and a warm welcome to the 2022 World Women Economic and Business Summit. It is a great honor to host today's event as we are all here gathered to celebrate the achievement of women across the region and beyond. Over the past few decades, progress has been made. However, such progress has been slow and uneven. The COVID-19 pandemic destroyed much of what women has gained over the years. As such, we must unite to end violence and discrimination against women. As women, we must have the right to determine our health, goals, and dreams. We must work together to empower women and to expand opportunities in politics, business, and beyond. We must also back up our resolve and resources because we know investment in gender equality yield great returns across society. This is a vital year for us to refocus on advancing on all these goals as we reopen our economy after the pandemic. It is now the time for transformation. And to be truly transformative, women everywhere must prioritize gender equality and women's empowerment. Women's voices and full participation is central. We must ensure that we fulfill the 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We in Asia and the Pacific region have made great achievements in raising women's economic empowerment, political participation, leadership, and decision-making power. We have also made remarkable progress in education and health. To date, 183 of the 193 United Nations member states have ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, and 114 have ratified the optional protocol. Many countries have also strategies on gender equality. Most importantly, with all the strengthening of the strong legal and institutional foundations, the countries in our region have adopted progressive measures to ratify laws and regulations. Actions have been taken to prevent violence against women and to provide land rights. While we can all be proud of what we have achieved so far, we need to strengthen our commitment to action on gender equality and women's empowerment. There are a number of factors that are slowing down the progress of gender equality and women's empowerment. These include, firstly, the substantial gender gaps continue to deprive women of opportunities. We continue to remain off target to achieve SDG 5 on gender equality. Progress on some of the gender indicators has either stagnated or deteriorated over the past few years. Secondly, progressive educational outcomes and economic growth are still not translated into more and better jobs for women. Women's labor force participation rates have stagnated and declined in some areas over the past years. Thirdly, women are being disproportionately impacted due to the COVID pandemic, climate change and environmental depletion, of which has reduced food security and increased threats to livelihood. Natural disasters have further increased pressures on women's time, income, health, nutrition, and social support systems. Further, let me highlight 3 areas which I believe will be able to help to strengthen our support for gender equality and women's empowerment. Firstly, we must promote women's entrepreneurship as a catalyst for advancing women's economic empowerment. These initiatives can contribute to enabling policy environments that increase women's entrepreneurs' access to finance and digital technologies. Secondly, encouraging women's active participation in leadership and decision making. If we can strengthen women's capabilities and their access to resources, the prospect of leadership roles will be within reach for women. Finally, high quality, timely, and sex disaggregated data is very crucial for informed policymaking. We support countries to design and implement evidence-based, gender-sensitive policies and programs through policy data integration tools. Moving forward, we must be ready to collaborate with multi-stakeholders to realize our collective vision to leave no one behind at all levels and to push boundaries forward for women. Once again, I'm very pleased to be here to take part in this very important conference. It is my firm conviction that women must be at the decision-making table at all levels. We all must do our part to break the glass ceiling and open the doors of opportunities. I'm honored and proud to add my voice and full support to this essential cause. Let us rejuvenate our efforts for a better world, realizing equal rights for women and men. Lastly, I would like to reiterate that the World Women Economic and Business Summit 2022 is supported by the Malaysian Convention and Exhibition Bureau, or MICEB, an agency under Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Malaysia. MICEB serves as the central hub to assist meeting and event planners to bid and stage international business events in Malaysia and act as a conduit for national product development to all local as well as international organizers. Business events are catalysts for socio-economic growth, and it helps to elevate the lives of the professional and local communities in Malaysia. And besides that, I would also like to take the opportunity to thank our supporting organizations, Women's Institute of Management, which I happen to be the Deputy CEO there, National Council of Women's Organization, and Peniagawati. I'm also grateful to Young Presidents Organizations, or YPO, for participating as our gala dinner host for tonight. I'm also an EXCO member of Young Presidents Organization. With this, thank you for your attention, and I wish you a successful event.
Ya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and a very, very good morning. Bahagia Tan Sri Michael Yeo, President KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific, Dato Dr. Jessie Tang, Organizing Chairperson, Excellencies, distinguished guests, honored speakers and moderators, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It's so nice to see all of you. You're smiling, very enthusiastic, wanting to attend this very important event. I'd like to congratulate all of you for being here. It is really my pleasure to be here today at the inaugural 2022 World Women Economic and Business Summit, organized by KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific and supported by the Malaysia Convention and Exhibition Bureau. That's an agency under us. I have to keep promoting them. They have been very supportive. National Council of Women's Organizations, Malaysia, and CWO, the Association of Bumiputra Women in Business and Profession, or better known as Peniagawati. Yeah, give yourselves a big round of applause. Yeah, thank you. And the Women Institute of Management, WIM, thank you for having me here as well today. It was so nice to have been able to listen to speech from a special keynote address from the Right Honourable Prime Minister of New Zealand, and also the Under Secretary of the United Nations from Indonesia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, even when I heard Tan Sri Michael's speech and Dato Dr. Jesse's speech just now, it was a very, very inspiring speech for all of us. We need to have this all the time because we need to keep pushing for the women all the time. I don't know until when we will stop pushing for ourselves, but at least we are here today to push a lot of things for women so that they will be there to be acknowledged and to be recognized. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by briefly reflecting on the current state of gender equality in the global context. Studies have shown that if we empower women to participate equally in the global economy, an additional USD 28 trillion can be contributed to the world's GDP by 2025. However, the International Labour Organization, or ILO, reports that globally women's labor force participation has actually been declining over the last decades to below 50% just before the pandemic. While many regions such as Latin America and the Middle East have shown a positive upward trend in women's participation in the last 3 decades, there have been reductions in the South and East Asia regions. Well, having said that, I've been observing what happened during the pandemic because when I came in, I was just one of those in the cabinet who have to do a lot of things for our nation during the pandemic. And the first community that I've been observing were the women, how they responded to the usage of to the making of the batik masks, and also to the crafts in the various part of the country, especially in the rural areas. Because we in MOTAC, what we did was, in order to save or to help the women, not just women, okay, to be fair to the crafters in the country, we created the e-craft shop. That's where we saw the enthusiasm, but of course some of the areas are very far away from the internet connection. So what we did in MOTAC, we helped them, we encouraged them to produce their local products, especially the baskets from our craft tangan or our handicrafts shop, and most of them were made by women, and most of them were bought and purchased by women. So I'd like to congratulate women for helping each other for that. So thank you. I thought everyone was not really paying attention. I just want to make sure that you know that it is about women today, so we have to really emphasize on the role of women. Today, the effects of the pandemic on women's participation in the labor force are still uncertain. The World Bank found that women were 3 times more likely than men to stop work during the pandemic due to family and childcare obligations. Deloitte Global's Women at Work report found that nearly 80% of women say their workloads have increased because of the pandemic, while 66% of women report having more responsibilities at home, making it persuasive to leave the workforce. This is very unfortunate because women's participation in the economy stimulates wider benefits. Studies of economies as varied as Bangladesh, Brazil, Canada, Ethiopia, and the United Kingdom suggest that women generally devote more of the household budget to education, health, and nutrition than men. This is not said by me, I only quote, okay? So we create bigger ripples when given monetary power. In Malaysia, the numbers are beginning to look optimistic post-pandemic. The unemployment rate in the first quarter of 2022 has declined to 4.1%, with women participation increasing steadily every quarter in the past year. now standing at 6.04 million. These numbers are still comparatively low compared to men's participation standing at 9.53 million. In 2020, Malaysia's women's labor force participation rate, or LFPR, consisted of only 55.3%, whereas men's LFPR stands at 80.9%. Regionally, as well, Malaysia's women's LFPR is lower than ASEAN countries such as Singapore, which was 69.7%, and Thailand, 66.8%. However, efforts to close the gap remain a focus of the government and private sector. We ranked 112 out of 156 by the World Economic Forum's, or WEF, Global Gender Gap Report 2021, with an overall score of 0.676. Most importantly, higher education attainment among Malaysian women was 49.9%, compared with men's at 40.7% in 2021. Business-wise, today there are about 650,000 entrepreneurs, and it's estimated that 20% of them are women. Further, according to Grant Thornton's Women in Business 2021 report, female participation in C-suite roles or top management positions is on an upward trajectory in Malaysia, with the proportion of female chief financial officers, or CFO, at 41%, chief marketing officers, or CMO, at 36%, and chief information officers at 20%. Having said that, we should also thank the men for giving that support to the women. These statistics show that gender inequality is still a pressing moral, social, and economic challenge to which women become easily marginalized. This is also why taking gender into account matters when developing and implementing policy. Placing women at the heart of global policy making will go a long way toward realizing the United Nations 2030 agenda goal of achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, now we look into tourism, specifically in Asia and the Pacific, where women make up 53% of the tourism workforce in this region. Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Thailand have been highlighted for having more than half of tourism businesses run by women. It is these enterprising women who make up the communities while enabling the informal sector such as craft, tour guide services, homestays, immersion programs, and heritage and cultural experiences to grow. Yet, these small and micro enterprises are also particularly vulnerable and at risk of being adversely impacted by the global pandemic due to lower resilience as well as a lack of resources to mitigate external shocks. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, the travel and tourism sector contributed 10.3% to global GDP, and it was responsible for 1 in 10 jobs on the planet. But with COVID-19, our sector experienced its worst ever crisis. 62 million jobs were lost, and countless establishments that shaped the fabric of destinations worldwide were closed. However, travel and tourism is bouncing back. Our sector will continue its remarkable growth, providing crucial jobs for people all over the world as it drives long-term sustainable growth. I'd like to share with you, many people were complaining to me about traffic jam when they wanted to go back for Raya Haji, when they wanted to go to Genting, when they wanted to go anywhere, to any part of the country. They were complaining to me, it's all over the place, all traffic jam. It's very slow traffic. And I told them, thank you very much for this, for for the good problem that we give to tourism industry. So this is something that we should be able to appreciate, although it's causing a lot of traffic jam. It shows that tourism is really picking up, and domestic tourism is really, really very, very good for Malaysia. To secure the future of travel and tourism, along with the businesses and communities that sustain it, we must prepare for future crises and manage ongoing challenges. Therefore, as part of efforts to advance a more inclusive and women focused recovery for the tourism sector, which is in line with Sustainable Development Goal 5 or SDG 5, I believe this conference will provide us with deep insights and on data trends, strategies, and the future prospects for women in the global economy and world tourism, and we have a chance to bridge that divide. Ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, Malaysia has enjoyed a healthy gender balance in terms of tourism workforce composition in 2020. The tourism industry employed 3.5 million people, or one out of every four workers, and contributed 23% of total employment. Of this, women made up nearly half of the tourism workforce, or 48.3%. As a result, to ensure that the industry is more inclusive and women focused, the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, or commonly known as MOTAC, has developed the National Tourism Policy 2020 to 2030. Its 6 transformation strategies are built on 3 pillars, which are competitiveness, inclusivity, and sustainability, and are aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Moreover, Strategy 5 in particular aims to promote sustainable and responsible tourism with specific initiatives benefiting women, youth, and disadvantaged groups, particularly in the rural areas, that is, the rural communities. MOTAC, for example, has assisted 1,340 women crafts entrepreneurs through Craft Tangan Malaysia's reskilling and upskilling programs. This is just during the pandemic time. Not that we only have 1,000 over crafters or entrepreneurs, but we specifically mentioned this because this is what we did during the pandemic time. Also, 1,873 women crafts entrepreneurs have used platforms like eCraft Bazaar and My Craft Shop, as well as mobile apps like Craft on the Go to promote and market the products and improve service delivery. Further, MOTAC has continuously provided upskilling and training for our tour guides, homestay operators, and tour operators. Innovation in digital technology is at its peak, and these skills can provide new opportunities for women to connect to international networks, which would bolster growth and inclusion. MOTAC is also committed to providing access to finance, which is crucial for any commerce to grow, such as our homestay repair matching grants and the Tourism Malaysia matching grants for tourism and culture. For those who are interested, please rush, because I think we only have 50 billion for this year, and I think about over 30% have been taken. So for those interested, you better rush. So lastly, retention of women in the workforce is dependent on other women in the workforce, especially as employers. We heard Tan Sri Michael Yeo's speech just now. We should not have that neglecting attitude as employers. Research finds that employers who give women the culture and support to enable them to succeed have a more productive and motivated workforce and are likely to report greater retention. Therefore, all of us who are in decision-making positions should assist more younger women to break the glass ceiling. I'd like to share a little story with you. When I was invited to speak at one of the forums that involve women, but most of them were men as well in that room, in that hall. There are a lot of them, and I think most of them, because it's organized by accountants from Australia, those Malaysian who had been graduating from Malaysian alumni, graduating from Australia. And the moderator asked me, should we push for the 30%? I was with one very senior politician at that time, and she was saying, no, women should not be just quota fillers. And I said, I beg to differ. Much that I have always respected some senior people, but I beg to differ, because if women don't push for themselves, nobody is going to give them that chance for them to fill that 30% quota. So therefore, we have to keep moving. So Dr. Jessie, you have to keep moving, pushing for that. And I'd like to thank Tan Sri Michael Yeo, who have been supportive. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, everyone can be an ally for gender equality. Inclusion is exactly what the SDGs are about. And partnership on our shared aspirations for a more equitable and sustainable world through targets set out in the SDGs is key to its achievement. With this, not few words, I wanted to say with these few words, but with these words, once again, I thank the organizers for organizing this event and for giving me these opportunities to say a lot of words. To all the participants and speakers, especially those from abroad, selamat datang to Malaysia. Surely you'll be safe, inshallah, and enjoy Malaysia, what Malaysia has to offer, especially on our gastronomy and the beautiful people. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.